I never thought taking a shortcut would lead to this kind of trouble. That night, I was the last one left in the office. Typing away past 10:30 p.m., Jason patted my shoulder on his way out and said, "Mike, don't push yourself too hard. That old tunnel's been off lately." I just nodded, dismissing it as another one of his dumb urban legends. When I pulled out of the parking lot in my beat-up Ford, GPS said it'd take 40 minutes to get home. The squiggly red line on the screen reminded me of the tunnel Jason mentioned if I cut through Mill Road. I could shave off 15 minutes. The steering wheel turned under my palms, tires crunching over wet leaves as I took the detour. Mill Road was darker than I expected. Ancient oaks wove their branches overhead, slicing the moonlight into jagged fragments. My headlights caught the sudden narrowing of asphalt just as the GPS chimed, "In 300 meters, turn right." Then I saw it. The tunnel mouth yawned like a concrete throat, its peeling paint glowing a sickly grey-green under my high beams. No lights inside, just 10 meters of visibility before darkness swallowed everything. Tires hissed through standing water as my radio suddenly erupted in static, the country music dissolving into jagged white noise. "Damn piece of junk," I smacked the dashboard. That's when I saw it in the rearview mirror, something flickering past. I whipped around. The back seat was empty, of course, but the rear window, streaked with wet lines, like fingers had dragged themselves across the glass. The AC was blasting, yet the air reeked of swamp rot. The tunnel went on too long, 2 minutes in, according to the clock. Should have seen the exit by now. Then the hairs on my neck stood up, that prickling sense of being watched crawling up my spine. I floored the gas, the engine screamed, but the speedometer didn't budge. What the hell? I glanced down. The pedal was jammed to the floor. When I looked up, something was crouched on my windshield. Gnarled like a dried-up branch, its elongated fingers tapped once right in the center of the glass. I screamed, yanking the wheel. Tires skidded on wet pavement as the car careened toward the tunnel wall. The airbag exploded in my face. In that split second before impact, I saw it clearly, the thing pressed against the windshield. No eyes, just two oozing black holes where they should have been. I woke up sprawled on grass outside the tunnel, ambulance lights stabbing my retinas. The cops said they found me with the engine still hot, but there wasn't a single scratch on the tunnel walls. "Lucky you," the EMT said, handing me a styrofoam cup of black coffee. "Last month, a couple vanished here. We found their car with the radio still playing." I stared at the reflective badge on his uniform, remembering the last thing I'd heard before blacking out, not the crash, but the radio suddenly clearing up to play that old song, "I'll Follow You Into the Dark." Now, whenever I drive late at night, there's always a patch in the rearview mirror that's darker than it should be. I know it's waiting for me to make one more mistake. For some exhausted nights when I take that goddamn shortcut again. The subway delay notification popped up just as I was biting into my bacon and egg sandwich from the food cart. My phone showed the green line was down, next train in 25 minutes. The suited man beside me cursed under his breath and bolted for the stairs, briefcase in hand. I checked my watch. My therapist appointment was in 40 minutes. Walking 6 blocks would just make it. Take the underground passage, faster. The janitor spoke suddenly, mopping up spilled coffee near my feet. Follow the maintenance tunnel. Saves you to traffic lights. His fingernails were lined with grime as he pointed to the metal door at the end of the platform marked "Employees Only." Maybe it was the desperation to talk to my therapist about the breakup. Maybe it was something else. Either way, I pushed the door open. The metal stairs groaned under my weight, water beaded on the walls, leaving dark spots on my sleeves. The passage was wider than I expected, buzzing with old overhead bulbs that cast sickly light over mold-speckled tiles. At the third turn, I heard it, a steady drip. Drip behind me. I sped up. The sound matched my pace, quickening until it was nearly a jog. When I turned, the corridor was empty, just my own shadow, stretched and warped against the wall. Then I turned back and she was there, a little girl in a faded sunflower dress, clutching a soaked teddy bear. "Have you seen my mommy?" Her voice echoed unnaturally. I shook my head and tried to step around her. The bear slipped from her arms, hitting the ground with a wet sap, black hair tangled in its stuffing. "Pick it up." Her smile stretched to wide. I stumbled back, hitting the wall. The tiles were freezing. The girl bent to retrieve the bear herself, and as she did, her golden hair parted, revealing the back of her skull. No bone, just pulsing, dark red tissue. I ran. Her laughter chased me, twisting with the roar of a passing train. When I shoved through the exit door, sunlight burned my skin. A cop on the sidewalk frowned at my heaving breaths. "Sir, that maintenance tunnel's been closed for 3 years. It's flooded down there." That night, in the shower, I found a wilted sunflower petal clinging to my pant leg. My shift at the community hospital ended at 3 a.m. Rubbing my sore lower back, I stepped out of the into a parking lot where the flickering overhead light seemed dimmer than usual. Charge Nurse Joan chased after me, thrusting a box of blueberry muffins into my hands. "Take these. You look worse than our cardiac patients." There were two routes home: the long way around via the interstate, or the scenic Oak Ridge Tunnel. Normally, I'd never choose the latter, but tonight my eyelids felt like lead weights. The tunnel's reflective markers glittered under my headlights like some kind of warning. I realized something was wrong the moment I entered. The concrete walls were covered in children's chalk drawings, crooked houses, and smiling faces that seemed to shift unnaturally when illuminated by my passing headlights. A sudden clatter from the back seats nearly made me swerve into the divider, just the muffin box sliding off the seat. When I reached to retrieve it, I caught a whiff of something sweet and metallic that definitely didn't belong to baked goods. The rear window reflected the tunnel's overhead lights, which should have been spaced evenly every 20 meters. Instead, they now flickered in irregular patterns like some coded message. Worst of all, between the strobing lights stood countless small silhouettes. The dashboard clock suddenly reset to 0 o'clock. The AC vents blew dust-filled air. In my peripheral vision, the chalk drawings began to writhe, the smiling faces stretching their grins impossibly wide. I white-knuckled the steering wheel, accelerating forward, but the tunnel stretched endlessly like taffy. Then the rearview mirror showed someone in my passenger seat. Nurse Joan's pale face pressed against the glass. When she spoke, I heard the flatline tone of a heart monitor. "You forgot the patient charts." In her hands wasn't paperwork, but a pulsating mass of flesh smeared with blueberry jam. A blaring horn snapped me back to reality. A truck driver from the opposite lane yelled, "Trying to die or what?" The dawn light at the tunnel exit stung my teary eyes. The muffin box sat perfectly intact in the back seat. But when I opened my apartment door, I found a dozen used chalk sticks scattered across the floor. The brightest red one was still warm to the touch. Now I'd rather drink 3 black coffees after night shifts than take that shortcut again. Yet whenever I pass the children's hospital, I always see kids waving crayons at me from the windows using the exact same fluorescent colors as those tunnel drawings.